Welcome to the Three Layouts Tour featuring Joe Binish, Bill Sampson, and Ken Ziska. Joe's going to cover the C of M, Bill Sampson's going to cover the GN in 1970, and Ken Ziska is going to show us that there's more than three people that enjoy modeling S-scale. Enjoy part 1 of 3.
The Three Layout Tour, the Three Layout Tour.
Hi folks, this here is the Sampson Memorial Tower that William tried to wipe out. I was able to fix it and even improved it a bit, so it's alright, William, you'll get invited back. I'm Joe Binish.
That's right, Joe Binish of the Central of Minnesota is going to give this tour.
Welcome to the Central of Minnesota. We're going to run a train tonight. It didn't get run at the last operating session. It never does because my scheduling is poor, but it's kind of a neat train. It starts over here in the staging yard, and there's also a box car that we need to pick up, so we'll see if we can get that to run. So the car we're going to pick up is going to be that B&O box car there, and we'll be running my Minneapolis Industrial Railroad locomotive number 50. So let's, I'm sorry it doesn't have sound. Some people will appreciate that. So we'll pull out of the staging track, which it doubles next to the industry track. And these are all pickups that are coming from the Minneapolis Industrial Railroad to the the Minneapolis and St. Louis Middle Yard. And yes, I use the big telephone poles to uncouple cars. Being kind of a freight car nut, I castrate my KD couplers and put the either rubber air hoses or, when I first started out, the KD ones, which always break off and you get to reapply them. So it's more modeling. Oops, this guy isn't going to throw for me. The neat part about having servos underneath the layout is you get to deal with when they don't have a good signal and you can't get the car out of the industry. Why are you doing this to me now? Not going to happen. I guess we'll pick up that box car tomorrow. Come on back, let's get the caboose. The turnout's clearly out of service. It's a 24-inch cable, and for some reason that's the one that doesn't work. Everything else works fine on that servo system. So we get up here to the call box, and the signal controls the staging yard, but we need to get onto the main. So we have to go over here and talk to the yardmaster, and since I'm doubling as yardmaster, I'll say that it's okay we come out on the main. And notice a little trash can there so that the crews can throw away their orders and pop cans and that kind of stuff. This scene eventually will be detailed better. Alright, we have the turnouts, let's go ahead and go. Whew, dusty locomotive too. Weathering, right? We'll assume that that's a dispatcher controlled turnout, so we'll just keep rolling, and being the dispatcher I'll throw it back because you never want to leave the turnouts lined for the main, right? Or the siding. Yard crew has lined us in. We're going to pick up a set of cars and drop off a set of cars. Here's the switcher at the yard office. He's going to make us do our own work. So we'll drop our caboose back here. Hey Tom, do you think you can cut off that locomotive up there?
Yeah.
That's good. One neat thing that my friend Rich Ramirez made me do is we have yardmaster control of the 3 switches down at the end, or local control. And now I have it on the yardmaster control so we can go back and pick up our cars. That way the yardmaster can control what happens on into his into his arrival and departure tracks. So we'll pick up these 3 cars. Oh, and I violated one of the rules. I didn't bring my card pack with me. We're going to back up here. We'll assume that our brakeman is either riding on the back of this little tank car, or he's the rear brakeman has walked out of the caboose. We'll throw turnout number 10 back onto our caboose. Turnout 10 is that one. Now, this is a nice arrow you have here, John.
High class.
Exactly.
High tech.
First class.
Greg Dahl says he wants another shot at the Yardmaster. Is that possible?
Yes, but there is payment involved. All right, here we go. We've got our train. I picked up the cards, so we have a couple for Standard Oil. We have one gone for the Minneapolis Public Dock, and we have 2 auto cars to drop off. So it must be some more 53 Fords coming in. Auto cars, tank cars, that'll go to Minneapolis Public Dock. So it looks like we're lined to leave the yard, and so we're going to head on out. Make sure we throw our turnout here.
Matt Clare wants another shot at the Yardmaster, and Clark Cooning's wondering why I'm here. I wonder why that's all the time, Clark. So don't.
Because I'm too dumb to run a camera.
Yes.
That's why.
Joe can scratch build freight cars. I run a camera. I'm a tool.
That's not nice. So Middle Yard actually existed. This is Middle Yard here. Actually existed on the M and St. L. Served the freight house and the fruit warehouses, or the fruit tracks downtown, produce yard, and right about now where the Twin Stadium is, and but we make it do more work here in the central Minnesota. Boy, the next session somebody should grab that the reefer job, because there's a whole bunch of work there, and there will be more cars on the reefer track when we get around to it. So here we go past the auto ramp. Looks like there's a selection of 53 Fords there, but we'll catch that on the way back because we don't want to be shoving cars around on our front. We're going to do a run around and come back. Tom's showing you 4th Street. This is one of the switch jobs that we do every session. This is the hard one because there's only one run around, and of course it's covered by industries. Here we come down to Minneapolis Public Dock, and everybody gives me a hard time about this grade, but it really existed like this, kind of in the Bohemian Flats area. And there was a large coal dock, and actually they shipped out tractors in barges and coal in. Most of the coal that, not most of, a good chunk of the coal that came to Minneapolis, St. Paul for home heating use came this way or from Duluth.
What's the size of your layout, Joe?
Yeah, so it's about 35 feet long. This room is about 10 feet wide, but it's kind of around the walls in a bunch of different areas. So it's not, we're no more than 2 feet wide except for at the yard. Hopefully that helps. We get 6 operators down here and then the superintendent. I run around and make things difficult for everybody else. Most of my turnouts are controlled by blue points with pulls on the fascia. This one happens to be controlled by a tortoise with a switch here because I didn't want to put a control here where I already had a UP throttle plate. So we're going to go down here and pick up some cars out of the Minneapolis Public Dock. And yes, we are tying up the main line, but the whole thing is yard limits, so we just have to be careful we're not in the passenger trains ways. I like to use the passenger trains as a method to keep Matt Clare from doing switching on the main line over at the yard. If he starts to do that, then I send a passenger train through to make things more difficult for him. Uh-oh. Oh, looks like it's going to make it. There's been discussions about putting a cog railway in here so that the locomotives can make it up the hill with these cars. probably would have been nice if the yardmaster would have put our gun on the front of the train so we didn't have to use these three as a handle, but things like that happen. Sometimes yardmasters aren't nice.
Matt says he's learning about passenger trains. I disagree.
Oh, I just ran a red signal, Tim.
Start drinking water.
Yeah, you'll be peeing. All right, so we're going to set our loads out here onto the train. Oh, sir. Looks like I have a crewman here.
So you picked up 2 loads.
Yep, 2 loads here.
And dropping the empty back in.
Yep, this one was empty, and then we're going to drop them in there. You might get to do some paperwork for me.
That would be great.
Come on back. Some of the guys just want to uncouple them at the top of the hill, figuring they'd break when they'd ride it down like a hump yard. That's expressly forbidden.
Kick them.
Yeah. Maybe end up in Little Falls.
St. Paul or worse. More Canadians. William Brillinger's watching. Hello, Bill.
William was here with his wife Dana, and they operated 4th Street right before the modelers retreat. Did a very good job. He's welcome back anytime, as is Dana.
Brian asks, is that all static grass?
Yes. My friend Rich Ramirez is very good at that, and I've tried some, but he usually grabs the applicator and doesn't let me do any. So
We're back to my friend again. All right.
Yes.
Thank you, Richard Ramirez. Mr. Scenery.
you can put that in there for me, and then those are Ship It, or car cards by Ship It. Goes in the set out pile, and there should be a pickup one there. I should get that 2 Emmons St. L 27 and Milwaukee 91. Excellent. Now we're going to, whoa, geez, that's far enough. Let's throw that turnout and get back on our train.
Bill says yes. Dana's skeptical, of course.
Skeptical of that you did a good job, or that you guys should come back.
Well, either one.
Look, I found some of the old McHenry couplers. I thought I'd banned those from interchange service.
That's why you come on video to show all your errors.
Yeah,
It's
nickel plate.
All right, where are we going now?
Well, so now we're going to go do our runaround. When I get the addition built onto the layout, which is when I get these 3 buildings replaced, then this train will have more work. But for right now, it's just kind of small. It's going to do just a little bit of work.
Graham wants to know, do you have issues with things uncoupling on the transition on the grade?
Usually no, but if I have a 58 and a 158 together, sometimes things will go flying down. But I try not to allow that to happen. The signals are more of a traffic flow, like traffic lights, rather than occupancy, and it's not really a true interlocking. The guy who sits in this tower is really smart, so they let him take care of that kind
Let's
of stuff.
show the tower for a moment while you're doing it
Okay,
here.
you mean the Sampson Memorial Tower?
The Sampson Memorial Tower. Well, that's the tower, but we want to see the
how
switches
things work? All right, so we're going to throw the turnouts here. First, we're going to cut off our locomotive because we want to do a runaround. And if you look here, I'm red over red, so I can't go any farther than that signal. But let's throw that signal to make it cool for us to go by. So we can throw the lever here, and now we get a yellow. And that's the best you're going to get. We're in yard limits. So we'll run down.
Which lever did you throw?
I throw this one. So the black ones are signals. The blue one is the lock. If we shove that back, nothing moves, which is disconcerting because sometimes I do that and forget that I do it and the system doesn't work and I start crying. The ones with the white number plate are the switches. So the last turnout is throwing, hopefully. Nope, I have to plug in the system. Now the turnout's through.
You have a sleeper set out here. Is that for a through train?
Yes, one of the passenger trains will pick that up and take it down to Peoria.
Very nice.
All right, so we're going to throw the turnout, and we'll throw, the signal should be yellow for that locomotive to come back, and we'll do our runaround. Note when he gets into the plant that it doesn't go all red. That's because I didn't feel like putting detection in.
And what do we have back here?
That's Lake Street. The line to the left goes to East Staging, but this Lake Street switches, there's one job that switches all the tracks along. So he does, Lake Street does these two tracks, and the industry's there, and all the work in here, and all the work here, and all the work down to this spot here. Whoops. So that will usually keep an operator busy for 2.5, 3 hours. That's a pretty good job. I'm dying to do it one of these days.
I want to see you throw the levers because everybody thinking this tower idea is just really cool.
This is done by Arduinos, and Dave Zune set that up for me.
He said Arduinos, Jim Rent.
Dave Zune set that up in exchange for me doing some painting. So I don't know who got the better of the deal because I can paint and he can do electronics, and I think I got the better end of the deal. All right, so let's get, these two tank cars are going to go to Standard Oil, so we want them together. So we're going to do a little bit of sorting here. How are we doing on time, boss?
We're good. We got about 15 minutes.
Okay. I don't think there's a better way to do this, so we're just going to...
You might want to skip one. Just.
I can run faster. I've been running prototype speeds.
What?
It's got to be switched right, otherwise the car cards don't match up, Tom.
Oh, that car cards.
The staging fairy will get all confused when he comes back.
I know nothing about car cards. If they don't have colored balls on them,
that's
I don't know.
Doesn't know what to do.
Doesn't apply.
I just don't want to drill all those little holes in the top of my car.
See how you are. You switch that out. I'll show them down here. This is the, what area is this down here?
Way in the end there is northeast. And that poor guy had 25 cars last time, which is way too many. So I called some out. Behind there is North Staging.
All the varnish.
Yes. All right, I'm done sorting. We can go off and finish our work here with this train. How are we doing time-wise? Am I making any sense?
We're good. 10 minutes. Where is our next stop?
We need to go down to those Standard Oil tanks, and we'll drop off these two cars there.
You go down there. I'll get you from this side.
All right.
Show people your alleys some more here.
I promised my wife I wouldn't go into the next room until I get these two buildings replaced with hard plastic ones. And I have all the material to make this one, so it's not the A mill, but haven't gotten around to it yet. I should do that now or everybody has to stay home, right? We'll leave our caboose here to protect our hind end. When we get the building built, this little control panel will go away. It'll be built into the building.
What does that control panel do?
That controls the switches to D yard.
Ah.
And I had them for a while set up over here, and that was really irritating for people who wanted to be over here and switch on the yard. So We put them centrally.
These are the Blue Point pulls. And now you're doing work over here. Drive safe, Dan. Good to see you. Winford's driving home from the real trains, he says.
Oh. He's allowed to work? I thought everybody had to stay home. Oh,
He's essential.
I wish I was essential.
His paycheck says different, he says.
Yeah, right.
Yes, Bill, your spots are still there. You're doing well.
All
Or
right.
setouts, is it?
A couple of setouts.
Dave Menard wants to know the advantage to Blue Point versus Tortoise.
Blue Points are manual as opposed to tortoises require all the wiring and that kind of stuff. I have some of each, obviously. They're cheaper by $10.
So price and manual versus powered and wiring. And,
Right.
but Blue Points will control a frog?
Yes, they have the same. They have a little micro switch in there that controls or will throw the electricity for the frog. Look at that. We didn't have to go very far.
Well done.
Let me scoot by you there, sir.
Scoot.
Now, here we have one car to pick up, nickel plate 87124. And in our train, we have a Wabash and another nickel plate 148 to...
And these are automobile cars.
Yep. Notice I just unloaded these. So these poor guys are going to be busy getting rid of all these cars. So I think we'll do our pickup first.
So, no tri-level auto racks like Greg Dahl's.
No,
Here we
no.
go.
Can't afford those.
Can't afford those.
Plus
Can't.
they weren't even built yet.
Yes. What year are we looking at here?
1953. I was
1953.
originally going to do January, but the thought of doing all that snow made my head hurt. So somewhere in 1953. And that's a function of having some M and St. L. The SD7s were delivered in late 52, and before some of the other cars, they got rid of some of the other wood cars. We need to scurry.
You are doing just fine.
All right, so we'll set these two cars out. And then the train will go into the yard and pick up some more cars, but we'll just drive them into the yard or near the yard and be done, and people can ask more questions, or you can ask me questions, or I can shut up and smile, whatever.
Clark Cooning says he wasn't born yet. Ha!
Yeah, I wasn't either, 1967, but...
Yeah.
So there's our pickup, there's our setouts.
You guys will notice almost all of these cars are resin quality kits.
Well, see, I just went over the edge with one.
That's your layout.
Yeah, that's true. I can break stuff if I want to. Yeah, so...
Hello, John.
When I first started modeling and we were, the layout was built as I had already operated a bunch, so I knew I wanted to. And some folks said you couldn't operate with well-detailed cars, and you can, but you have to understand that you're going to have to replace some stuff and fix things. So we run a rip track every once in a while and glue on air hoses and brake wheels and that kind of stuff.
So Ted Larson wants to know, were Ford Autos made in St. Paul by then?
I would have to say no, because we're bringing freight cars in for them.
Now here you guys go, Aisle Side Industries. See, you can detail this.
Yeah, that was kind of fun. Doug Complin gave me a hard time for not having the posts in the middle, so I cut some styrene tubing and jammed it in there, and we're going to call it good.
Now, Graham wants to know, you have no regrets with the trip pins because you use the skewers,
Yes,
correct?
correct. Yeah, yeah. There are some people who use the trip pins, and there are a couple of cars on here because I have a time saver that I use for the Boy Scouts that they switch out, but I prefer to use the skewers.
Here's the Yardmaster's pit, all his paperwork. This area.
So we're set for now. These cars will all get left here in the yard, and actually I could tack them on over here. That's the stuff we brought in. And then there are things up there for American Hoist is on transfer track 2. And we could take those with us.
You got 5 minutes.
And go switch American Hoist, but we don't want to do that.
Anything else you want to show?
Um,
What is a trip pin? Yeah, funny, Matt. Nice cabooses. Yes, he has wonderful. These are all central of Minnesota, custom decaled.
yeah, so I had Real Graphics make those. Unfortunately, he's gone out of business. But there are other places that make decals. I think William Brillinger makes them, and that's really fun. I have a good time setting those up. The number 16 here. Oh, sorry. Use the arrow. That's the Atlas HH660. And I put a lot of little details on the ends, and just because I'm bored and don't have enough to do with my time. But it just got the racing stripe on the top, a la the Kansas City Southern. So it makes it for a more interesting locomotive.
Trying to get the stripe because the plastic's right in the same
yeah.
way of it. That's all right. All right, so this is American Hoist over here.
So American Hoist is really interesting because there's one long track here, and then the industry track. So all your off spots end up in the front. And we were trying to switch this, and I swore that we could get more than 8 cars down there. Well, you can't. You can get 6.5. And that's as many cars as you can get out of this industry at any one time. I have since cheated in that the staging track where this train came from, so we can do as many cars as we want.
Explain
So,
your diagrams.
my friend Dave Voss made these. Another friend.
Friend, you got a lot of friends.
So here's Middle Yard on this side where we parked the train. There's Cedar Lake Yard, so west staging. The Mirror track, which we came off of. Here's NSP, and this is the turnout that's out of service.
Mirror means what?
Minneapolis Industrial Railroad.
Thank you.
That's what the M&L called the Minnesota Western when they bought it in about 1954.
It is a lot of fun there, Ron. You could use some of your structures, but it's a lot of fun. Everybody says it's a fun-looking switching layout.
Yeah, so it's pretty much all a switching layout. Industrial jobs run around and do their thing. We have some transfers that bring in trains or bring in cars, and a few through trains that bring in cars. But other than that, that's what I like to do. So it's all industrial switching.
Anyone got any more questions? We got a few moments here. Anything else you want to see?
The staging yard here on the west side is empty because I took all the cars off after the last operating session. So I will rebuild the trains that are needed for the next session. We operate, I don't know if you can see this. We do the string graph here, but we do essentially 8 hours. Let's see, so 6 to 14, 14-ish to 22, somewhere in there. So I have to build all these trains in between sessions, which is fine. I get to play with my cars.
You show them your drawers.
Yeah, okay. So all the cars live in here. This is an old, if you're that old, you remember the old film strip containers. So the film strip projector would go down here, and all the film strips would live in here. Well, now a buddy of mine who was a teacher gave it to me, and so now I have all the cars hang out in here. And then up the street lives a guy who's a cabinet maker, and I help him do installs. So I said, Perry, I need help. And he said, oh, I can build that for you. There's all my open loads and flat cars with loads on them and reefers. This should be flat cars. Nope, tank cars and flat cars.
So now we all know where Joe keeps his reefer.
Yeah, right. And then these are the locomotives that will come on the different transfers. So there's a GN transfer next time and an MNS transfer, Rock Island. Everybody say hello to the St. L, more St. L. Here's the Central Minnesota, Milwaukee transfer. So some of those will come out for the next session and get used. And sadly, the transfers just go in and out, but that's what the real ones did.
So they ask, how long does it take to stage a session?
About 2 hours. If I do it right away and do the whole thing at once, it takes about 2.5 hours, but I do it in little chunks. So usually what happens after the session is over is I have a little bit of switching to do in the yard just because there isn't time to keep up, and then I'll start taking the cars off, and I take every car off in the staging yards and then lay out the trains.
All right. Anybody got anything else?
So I have to thank all my buddies. The Monday Night guys have done a lot of work on this, and Tom for for running the camera. And
Who's in your Monday night crew there?
Rich Ramirez, Doug Complin, Lou Vidal, Joe Berg, Mike Lustig. I probably forgot somebody and they'll be mad. Me.
But if they join the Minnesota Layout Operators Group, you can be invited here.
Yes, please do, because once we get over this virus foolishness, I would like to have operating sessions. So please sign up for them on the Minnesota Operators Group.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. What's going on with the arrow there, Joe?
I think we're done. Bye-bye. Thanks for coming.
A big thanks to Joe Binish for taking the time to give us a tour of his railroad, as well as Tom Gazer for being his cameraman. If you're looking for part 2, it's going to be the GN in 1970 with Bill Sampson, as well as part 3 is Ken Ziska taking a look at S-Scale. Be sure and subscribe to this channel if you're looking for future content that's entertaining.
For 3 layout tour. For 3 layout tour.